Hello and Happy New Year. As you can see, I started off the year right and with some workouts. I've gotten 3 great workouts in this year and I'm super proud of myself. So I'm going to be trying harder and hopefully I get it right. This year I'm going to try every Friday to go on right at noon or thereabouts. I was having some technical difficulties today, so it's 12:07. And I was just saying, I don't know about you, but I think it's like in our blood at the beginning of every year to just try to at least start by getting some workouts in. Unfortunately, maybe fortunately for many of you, I didn't get much of a break because on New Year's Day, I was getting bombarded with situations people were applying to. And the good news is we had a birth on January 1st, and we've since had 3 matches. And that's so exciting because it's only January 3rd. So I hope that that is the setting the stage for what's to come for RG Adoption Consulting in 2020 and really just the whole new decade ahead of us. So we are super excited. We ended 2019 really strong. I couldn't be more proud of our team and what we've accomplished this year. If you're curious what that is, we have shared every single stat that we could think of with you. If you did not see that and you want to, just either DM me or go on our website and sign up for our email list, but message me and say, hey, I want to see that. And we'll get you signed up for our weekly email list, and I'll make sure you get that one that we sent out this past Friday. So it was exciting. And if you haven't seen yet, hop over to YouTube. We have our RG Adoption Consulting YouTube channel, and we have this year-end compilation that our marketing manager, Connie Shakro, put together, and it's really, really awesome. It brought me to tears. So exciting to have ended a decade very strong and starting a new one even stronger. So it was fun. I'm going to kind of get to this year in a second, but it was really fun at the end of last year. I was really super, super intentional what all I've accomplished in a decade. I don't know if you've done that, but I used to upload all my stuff to Shutterfly, all my pictures, and just going back through 10 years of pictures really reminds you of everything you've been through in a decade. I have been through starting a business and, oh wait, I'm just gonna stop for a second. Funny Farm said, I got your stats, but still wondering what % of your matches become successful adoptions? 100%. Unless you've quit on the process, meaning, in my case, meaning you have just decided adoption's not for you and you really don't want to wait it out or you don't want to see it through, not having anything to do with having fall throughs and losing all your money or anything like that. Knock on everything possible, we have had 100% success rate. So hope that answers your question. In the past decade, I have left work that was not fulfilling me, and in turn put myself, I was working in the nonprofit arena, making over $100,000 a year with fantastic benefits and working 9 to 5 and being able to shut that down when I came home over the weekend. I worked hard and I worked a lot of weekends, but that was just because that's me. But I was able to really shut down and let that go. And I left all that after I adopted to start my own business and start something I was super, super, super passionate about. One, to see if I could do it, because starting a business is something I've always wanted to do. And I had no idea what the hell I was doing, but I figured it out. And I worked my way out of debt and really have dedicated my life to trying to serve others in an area that I'm super, super passionate about. And I became a mother in this past decade. I have welcomed in a niece and a nephew in this past decade. We have traveled around the world to new countries in this past decade. And so just looking at all of that, the highs and the lows and the struggles, and looking at what I'm capable of and how I chose to be in the face of adversity and in the face of hard times, I'm super, super proud of that. And it was really fun to look back. It's not too late if you haven't done something like that. I encourage you to do that. It's not too late to do it. So now I look ahead and all the things that I dream about, both personally and professionally, for the coming next 10 years of my life. And I hope that that includes many of you, because one of the things I am most proud of about what we have done with RG Adoption Consulting is build such a close-knit community of people on a smaller, more intimate level, and really just being there for my community, being present, having our team being present, and dedicating ourselves to teaching, education, because it doesn't stop ever, and connecting. And so I really hope to make that even stronger, and we're constantly looking at ways that we can become better at serving you. So those are some of the things that we have in store, just kind of brushing on the surface of that. But one of the things that we're trying new this year, one, I want to try to come on consistently at around noon Central Time every Friday to do my lives instead of just coming on haphazardly whenever I can. And two, we are trying to dedicate, we're going to try something where every month there's going to be a theme to our posts and to our conversations, so that we can really dive deep into a certain subject matter. So starting January off, we thought we'd start with open adoption. It's a huge subject in adoption. There's a lot that can go under that umbrella. We're going to hit on some of that. And certainly throughout the year, we may circle back to it as well. But I don't have anything planned. I'm just going to rant a little bit and tell you what openness, open adoption means to me, from my viewpoint, where I started and where I am 8.5, almost 9 years later, after the adoption of my son. So open adoption. When I first adopted, or just started the adoption process of my son, who's 8.5, I did not know a lot. I had a lot of stories in my head about what adoption means or what it might mean. I thought that it was only possible to adopt a certain kind of a baby with a certain situation that this child was born into, and I was totally wrong about that. But I was also very scared about this idea of openness and what it meant, and having this woman who I didn't know, but again had a story in my head about what she probably was like in my life. It was very scary to me. And even more scary to me, it was probably more scary to my family, who just loves me and wants to protect me. As I continued learning, thankfully in Illinois, we have required education hours. And I went to a birth mother panel at my home study agency in Illinois. And for the first time, I came face to face with 3 different, maybe it was 4, birth moms who had placed. And I'm looking at these women, and They didn't scare me. They weren't strung out on drugs. They weren't anything that I had in my head. They were not that. I was looking at me in their eyes. They were a woman just like me who was in a hard time in their lives, just like I was before I started this business, and had to make a really hard decision that was for the betterment of their child in their eyes. And for the first time, I was able to breathe into this idea of what open adoption meant, or semi-open adoption, and what it could mean and what it didn't have to mean. And what I mean by that was, I think a lot of people get this idea in their head that that a birth mother is a co-parent. And what I heard from those birth mothers that day was, we would not place our babies if we wanted to parent, if we intended to parent. This is their words. They said, we knew what we were doing. And if we didn't, by the time we did place, we sure did, because they had us sign about 50 pieces of paper that over and over and over again reminded us that we were relinquishing rights. All of a sudden I was thinking a little bit different, and my heart started opening up, and I was a little less scared. And what I realized today on so many levels, is that we are so scared. Fear creeps up to the highest degree when something is unknown. I'm about to start this program next week. Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses. I'm super, super proud of it. But in my head, all I've been saying is they're going to try to teach me how to be a corporation. And I left the corporate world. I don't want to be a corporation. And they are expecting all these things of me, and I don't want to do it. And I've just been having a really bad attitude about it. And I stepped back, having talked to a lot of people saying how much they got out of this program. And I said, you know what? I'm only scared because I have no idea what to expect. I'm in control. So openness, what I have learned over the years. And at first, what I learned, my first step was openness is sending pictures and letters through the agency with no identifying information. Okay, I was fine with that. And that's all I wanted. Because again, I was scared. I was scared. I was scared of my son's birth mom showing up at my door. I was scared of my son's birth father contesting. Legitimate concerns, well, maybe the birth father contesting was more legitimate than the birth mom showing up at my doorstep, because that wasn't going to happen. And I was very grateful. At some point, she said to me, I hope you know that I chose you to be the mother of my child. Now, not everybody gets that kind of affirmation from your birth mom. But it was only after years. Well, first of all, let me back up. At the hospital. Now, I had gone out to meet her ahead of time, so I was already getting that relationship built, and I was feeling a little bit more comfortable because now there was no fear of the unknown. Now I'm face to face. I gave her a hug. I touched her. I spent some time with her. I had dinner. I spent her birthday with her. So now I knew who this person was, and it was just another woman like me. And I felt more comfortable with her. And then at the birth, when I sat with her, I'm like, I don't want to send pictures and letters through an agency and try to hide who I am and try to hide my identity. You just gave birth to my son. You chose me. Like, that's something. I think we can have direct communication, because now we are bonded, and a really strong way. So I decided at that moment, here's my phone number, let's just text. Now, maybe that was a little selfish on my end, because for me, printing out pictures and sending anything in the mail these days is like a huge hassle. Let's face it, I would much rather just text. So we started that relationship texting. Years went by. And let me also say that I also realized, fear or not, of my own, I also realized that for my son, or for any child through adoption, this has to be a better option. Having information, being able to see who you look like or who your blood is, being able to know who your siblings are or half siblings, being able to see what culture you came from, being able to visit where you were born, or at least have that option. I could care less about visiting Indiana, just saying. Although I have. Imagine, just for 1 second, put yourself in the shoes of somebody who was placed in a closed adoption, and your whole life you wondered, who do I look like? What does it truly mean to be Mexican or Black or fill in the blank? Do I have any siblings out there? Are there any genetic medical conditions or mental health that I have to be scared of? Or do I have to live on the edge my whole life wondering? And I wonder who I get my curly hair from. And I wonder who I get my musical talent from. Imagine having all those questions in your head and not being able to answer them. And so what does that leave you to do is to fantasize. And so I knew if I could provide that and answer some of those questions for my son, because of open adoption, comfortable or not for me, that was probably the better option for him in the long run. And it has been. It has been. Through the years, that texting has now opened up. 8 years later, we finally had our first visit. Now, we have FaceTime since he was little. We have texted. He has talked to her on the phone. We didn't have at that time contact with the birth father, but all of that has completely opened up. But it took me 8 years to really build that relationship, build that trust, and continue my own education. It didn't happen overnight, and that's okay. I was doing the best I could while keeping an open heart and an open mind. And if you're one of our families, you've heard us say that ad nauseum. As long as you keep an open heart and an open mind. I am, and by the way, that first visit could not have gone any better. It was like we were hanging out with old friends. I didn't have anybody telling me how to parent. Listen, your child's birth parents know that you are the parent. They're not there to parent or co-parent or give you advice. They just want to see that they made the right decision for their child and that you are the parent that they thought you would be. And that child is loved and thriving the way they hoped that their child would with you. So while I understand that this fear is there in many different ways, it lives within many of us in many different ways. That's okay. Acknowledge it and continue to learn and push yourself out of your comfort zone and test those boundaries, because that's what's going to be better for your child and in turn for your family. Don't ever make this just about your child, because this is your family now. Like my family now, I don't just go to the Mexican heritage things because, oh, Trey, we're doing this for you. I would never say that to him. But what I do say is, this is who our family is. We have this culture and we have this culture and we have this culture, and this is what we do as a family. So be careful not to single your child out too and make them feel different. Another layer of open adoption, it's not just about the contact with the families, with the birth families, because sometimes you don't even have that option. Sometimes the birth parents don't want that and don't make that accessible to you. And that could be difficult, but there are other ways that openness can come into play. And to me, part of that, a huge part of that, is to constantly keep that door of communication open so that your child knows it's open and knows it's a safe subject to talk about. So what does that mean? I don't mean talking about adoption and asking them how they feel every single day. But if nothing's kind of come up organically in maybe a month, bring it up. Hey, it's Christmas time. I can't help but wondering what your birth family might be doing. Do you ever wonder that too? What do you think some of their traditions are? How might we be able to honor that as a family? Just open that dialogue up so that your child knows it's safe. Because one thing I have learned over the years from listening to many adoptees through adoptee panels is that my parents did the best they could, but it was never talked about, which made me feel it wasn't allowed to be talked about. Don't be that family, please. Please don't be that family. Let your child know loud and clear that it is okay and it is safe to talk about their adoption, their feelings, and it is okay for them to feel whatever they feel. Because sometimes they don't want to hurt our feelings. So they might not want to say, I really miss my birth family, or I really wish I could be with them, because they don't want to hurt your feelings. But it's okay, and we need to let our children know it's okay. And I think that dialogue, what you talk about and when, maybe it's reading a book. Maybe it's just having a conversation. You know, I just asked my son, I was like, do you ever wish that you sometimes would live with your birth mom and your siblings? Just to let them know it's okay to have those thoughts. So openness is not just about contact, no matter what level you're on, whether it is just starting with letters and pictures through your agency without any identifying information, or whether you're getting together for birthdays and holidays. It can be either extreme and anywhere in between, and it can start one way, go another way, and then go back. You know, it can go all over the place. People change. Boundaries need to be set. Boundaries need to be pushed. Conversations need to be had. Your hearts need to be open. Your minds need to be open. So that, to me, all encompasses open adoption. Throughout the month, we're going to continue with our Tuesday News Days. So on every Tuesday, we're going to try to post a news article that has something to do with open adoption. Thursdays are Thoughtful Thursdays, where we post things to think about, where we post different adoption stories. Again, we're going to try to focus the theme on open adoption. And if you're part of our client community, we have our own private community, and we're going to be showing up with discussions around adoption or open adoption. So that's our theme this month. Next month, it's going to be the adoption roadmap and how to work through that, how to get started, how to work through your process, and all of that. And that's what I've got for you today. I can't believe it's Friday. It's been such a wonky week with all the, say that 3 times, wonky week, wonky week, wonky week. With all the holidays. I wish you all a happy new year. We hope to show up in a big way for you this year. And if there's anything that you want to hear from us and want to learn from us, please, please, please let us know. If you're not part of our online community, getting our weekly emails, we share all of our, new babies and new families, but we also dive deep into conversations like this. So Happy New Year. Have a great weekend. And we look forward to being in communication with you throughout the year. Have a good one.